Okay, so let's see how this works. Okay, this is a bit of a crazy story. Where to start? Okay. Newfoundland is a province of Canada, and there was a recent trip that I undertook where I found there was a whole bunch of Portuguese historical named, reference sites. For example, the main road that cuts through St. John's, the capital, it's called Portugal Cove Road, and that road leads to a cove called Portugal Cove. They have this trail that surrounds Newfoundland. It's called the Bacalhau Trail, which I believe is a terrible attempt to spell and pronounce that Portuguese word bacalhau. I hope I haven't mispronounced it myself. Bacalhau means codfish in Portuguese, and it's their national dish, even though there is no codfish in the sea around Portugal. Go figure. I've tried it actually, and it tastes terrible. To any Portuguese people viewing this, or 5 of you, I guess. I'm sorry, guys. I mean, the stuff is served in a soup of olive oil, and you gotta figure out how to debone this. Anyway, okay, alright, back to the story. So, when it comes to the sort of world of history and discovery, there are a lot of debates as to who discovered what, when, who was first, etc. But there is a consensus on various parts of history that are very well documented. There is one that I'm going to talk about, which is called the Treaty of Tordesillas. I hope I pronounced that one right. The Treaty of Tordesillas was an attempt to resolve a sort of a tiff between Spain and Portugal. Each country was trying to claim a monopoly on newly discovered land, and of course they were discovering each other's lands and arguing about it. This tiff was quite a serious thing between them, and I must emphasize the Catholic Pope got involved to mediate the argument, and this resulted in a treaty that was signed in the Spanish city of Tordesillas, where the entire world was split in half. The new world was split in half between Portugal and Spain. This is kind of cool. Imagine being told as a country, you get the eastern half of the entire world. In the other country, you get the western half of the entire world. Unless, of course, you're, say, a Protestant English or Dutch sailor, in which case this treaty, it doesn't really count. Kind of like a degree from Trump University, it doesn't mean very much. Also, if you look at this line, it doesn't quite take into consideration that the world is round as a ball. It's just like on a map, a line down the middle. What happens if you, say, sail eastwards far enough? You're going to come out on the west side. And if you do the reverse, sail westwards far enough, you're going to come out on the east side. You kind of thought they would have drawn the line around the world, so to speak, but it was just a measurement of X amount of distance off the coast of Europe. They had to fix this mess up, and it was a good 37 years later with the Treaty of Zaragoza that they finally drew the line on the other side of the world, which is kind of crazy all in its own. As it turns out, they mismeasured that dividing line, but kind of fixed it, and in essence, that line that split the world in two carved out a portion of Brazil that would be Portuguese. That portion was basically Rio de Janeiro. Portugal got Rio de Janeiro, and what else could they ever want in this world? I mean, they should have been pretty content with that. Now, here's the crazy part. If you extend that line, that dividing line northwards, it actually cuts through Newfoundland in Canada, which means that under papal decree, a part of Canada belongs to Portugal, and the rest of Canada actually belongs to Spain. Little side story quickly, more of a joke side story. It's about a Spaniard who goes off to this land to try and find out what we now know today as Canada, and gets asked, so what was up there? And he responded going, ¿Qué? Nada. And hence the name Canada. Given that a portion of this land belonged to the Portuguese, there is actually a lot of codfish in these waters, and it's their national dish. It seems like a no-brainer. I mean, the Portuguese must just go out there and stake the land, and bang, they've got this codfish-rich area, which I'm pretty sure they went out to do. And their idea of staking a claim is not quite putting a stake in the ground. They have this like concrete cross thing, which they call a pedrão. I think I've got it. I think I got the nasal. Pedrão. They call it a pedrão, which they put into the ground. There were people already inhabiting this island, and they kind of like look like this. These people who already inhabited this island are called Newfies, Newfoundland. And the Newfies, when they have the Portuguese coming over to put this pedrão on the island, were like, you're laying claim to Newfoundland? Not quite the response you would imagine is about to happen. Because there's something many people probably don't know about Newfies. They are the most friendly, hospitable people in the world. And their response was more like, sure, you can have a part of Newfoundland. Come on over, come for dinner. Do you drink beer? And the Portuguese conquerors were welcomed with open arms and treated like the kings they wanted to be. Shocker, you weren't expecting that, were you now? So as it turns out, Newfoundland kind of has a secret as to why Newfies are so keen to have, so many people come over, and why they don't care much about, who's laying claim on the land. See, Newfoundland has a special kind of winter. Daily temperatures in winter go down to about minus 20 degrees Celsius. And for those of you who can only think in Fahrenheit, 20 degrees Celsius is just simply fucking cold in Fahrenheit. And daily snow levels are about 50 centimeters. So, it's one thing for Portuguese people to be invited over, come over for dinner and all that. But when they finally faced with this winter, the Portuguese were like, I'm going to go hang out with Jose in Rio. And that is why there's today a whole lot of Portuguese cultural named sites and virtually no Portuguese people in Newfoundland. For all those Portuguese people who are watching this, all 5 of you, I'd like to ask that you seriously consider visiting Newfoundland. In summer, of course. This is a truly beautiful and majestic island. It is just breathtaking how beautiful this island is. And they have the friendliest people who'd probably be more than happy to have you, come stay over, eat some cod, drink some beer, and reclaim your island. Okay, so you're still watching. Okay, so I did a bit of humor there, and I sort of stretched the truth a bit as to how the Portuguese experience in arriving on the island. But there is an element of seriousness that a serious side to the story that I wish we could get to learn and know more, at least in the English-speaking world. I think for the English-speaking world, when it comes to the concept of discovery of the Americas by Europeans, universal belief structure that it was the Vikings first, followed by Christopher Columbus, and that's the sequence of events, end of story. And that couldn't be further from the truth. The Vikings were probably first, given the various sites that have been discovered and the dating of the sites. But the Portuguese had actually discovered Newfoundland before Christopher Columbus had arrived in the Caribbean. There was a Portuguese sailor who sailed out and came across these islands, and he mapped the islands. He went back to the King of Portugal, hoping to get some funding. He presented his maps and also, government approved viceroy title or something to that effect. And the king actually gave it to him, gave him both the funding and the title to go with it. And he went back out to those islands. Again, this is before Christopher Columbus made it to the Caribbean. So he was already sailing around those islands. The story becomes a little bit more involved and a little bit more sad. As he passes away, so to speak, over time, his sons took over mapping those islands. And the one son that sailed out to those islands disappeared. And his brother, the other son, actually went out searching for the brother and disappeared himself. And the point here is that the Portuguese actually have a rich history that involves, the discovery of these islands already well before Christopher Columbus arrived. And this has been an interesting surprise to me, coming from an Anglophonic background, to find that there are actually other countries and other cultures that, unfortunately, perhaps because they don't speak English or don't have English as an official language, their history is not being well documented in the Anglophonic world, so to speak. I say thank you very much for watching, and yeah, I've got a few more to do, I think, on Portugal, but I do want to go on to other nations if I can pronounce the words of other languages. But yeah, thank you very much.